Well, good evening, everyone, and apologies for not sharing in advance what I was going to talk about this evening on my Facebook Live, if that is indeed where you're watching this. It's been a busy day, busy prepping for my forthcoming retreat day, Luxury Ladies Retreat Day, which is all about digestive health. And so I wanted to bring tonight a topic to you, the sorts of things I'm going to be sharing at my health retreat, but exactly why I'm such a fan of stewed apple and why it's so valuable for your gut health. And you might think, well, what on earth is stewed apple? Why is that just so precious and helpful for the gut? And I want to explain about these properties and just give you, well, I'm sure you can work it out for yourself, but really the recipe is just so simple, and what you can do and how to go about eating it, and the frequency with which you could and should eat this if you want to include it in your diet. So it is wonderful at nurturing and nourishing the whole gastrointestinal tract and the gut microbiome that we need to really take care of. It's a two-way flow, if you like, of a chicken and egg situation. You know, if you don't take care of the gut mucosal barrier, you can't expect to have a healthy gut microbiome with beneficial bacteria in abundance and diversity. But equally, if you don't have the abundance and diversity of the microbiome, you can't help to have a really healthy gut mucosal barrier, mucosal lining. The two go hand in hand. And actually using something like stewed apple is just so helpful for both situations. Now, apples are rich in soluble fiber. So soluble fiber is a really important. We've got soluble and insoluble fiber. They're the two main forms of fiber that we have. We have a third, but the two main forms of soluble and insoluble fiber. And apples contain pectin. You know, you may have heard of pectin. If you make jam, it helps to make the jam to set, but not in a hard, solid way, is it? It's still quite soft. And what pectin does as a soluble fiber in supporting our bowel movements, helping to keep the bowel movements healthy, is that the soluble fiber helps to draw water into the stools, not making them loose, but to keep them soft and easier to pass. And if the bowels are softer and easier to pass, but still formed, it helps to cleanse the walls of the colon, helps to keep the bowels regular on a daily basis, at least once a day. That's really important from a naturopathic, clearing toxicity point of view, keeping the gut healthy, helps to cleanse the walls of the toxicity, and is just brilliant at that. So that's the pectin. The other thing we know about apples is that they are a rich source of different types of polyphenols. Now, I often come up with these fancy words, and polyphenols is another one of these fancy words which relates to plant compounds, the phytonutrients, the plant compounds. And these particular polyphenols we now understand are brilliant at feeding the gut microbiome, the beneficial bacteria that we need to continually nurture and thrive. So they act as prebiotics. This is different to probiotics. This is something I will be talking about, the difference between probiotics and prebiotics. At the end of the day, we've got to be able to feed these bacteria, and prebiotics and the polyphenols is one type of prebiotic that feeds some types of bacteria. So we need to feed the bacteria. In turn, some of these bacteria, by feeding off it, create compounds known as short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, and butyrate then goes on to feed other beneficial bacteria and also helps to protect the gut mucosal lining. Now, the gut mucosal barrier is so important, and I use the word, I don't just say gut lining, I don't just say gut barrier. I particularly use the words gut mucosal barrier. There's this very, or should be, a very robust mucosal layer lining that gut. And we want that to be strong and healthy, to make sure that there isn't damage to the gut wall, the gut barrier, that we're not developing something called leaky gut, where toxicity can pass through into the bloodstream. And as I said before, this gut mucosal layer, this mucus layer, is so important. Some bacteria can only feed off this mucosal layer. And, you know, many bacteria living there in this environment. If you don't have a healthy mucosal layer, then it's you're going to risk taking care of the microbiome. The apples as well have anti-inflammatory benefits. Again, I often see with stool testing that there is an element of too much inflammation measured as calprotectin, but too much inflammation going on the gut. We do not want inflammation in the gut. You may go to a doctor and have a test and know that you're not at risk of anything more serious going on in the gut, like from an inflammatory bowel condition, which of course you want to know. But when I look at these test results, I really want to see calprotectin levels as close to zero as possible. So we don't want inflammation. We don't want that irritation. We don't want inflammation that can go on to damage the gut mucosal lining. So the apples contain anti-inflammatory properties, also antioxidant properties. Of course, antioxidants dampen down any free radical damage of our cells. Of course, you've got the epithelial cells lining the gut as well. There was one study, very small scale, but a study on rats looking at gastritis, that's inflammation on the stomach lining, and the apples that they used, or the compounds from the apples that was used in a study, showed that it protected the stomach mucosa, so it helps to protect against gastritis. So how can you go about this? You know, I'm going on about eating apples. I frequently tell my clients to add stewed apple in particular into their diets. Really valuable if you've got a very irritated gut lining. It helps to calm everything down in the ways I've just described. Very simple. It's better to make it in bulk, so you're not continually making it, but why not stew 4 apples? So you don't have to be cooking apples, it can be eating apples. They're going to be slightly sweeter, so you don't want to add sugar to this. Just use the natural apples. If you think your gut lining is irritated in any way, I recommend peeling the apples. The peel can have higher concentrations of the polyphenols, but if you're unsure, peel the apples, chop them quite small, add enough water to cover, add 2 to 3 teaspoons of cinnamon. Again, cinnamon has anti-inflammatory properties and creates a really lovely flavor to the apples. Very beneficial. So add the cinnamon. It's going to make it turn brown. That doesn't matter. Stew the apples under a low heat, cover with a lid. You may need to add a bit more water to stop anything sticking. You want to be able to mash those apples down. If you want it as a puree, then blend it. Otherwise, just have it sort of more of a mushy type consistency. So they are stewed and very, very soft. Keep it in the fridge and have some spoonfuls every single day as a really protective, gut nurturing way to look after your gut health, your gut microbiome as well. I hope you enjoyed this. If you're watching this live or in my Facebook group, rather than my YouTube channel, where it's been posted for some time, do come and book onto my retreat day in the Cotswolds at a beautiful, stunning location, Cotswold Park Barns. We have all to ourselves for the day. 4 ladies. It's going to be a beautiful day where I'm sharing all my tips and information about how you can take care of your gut health, your gut microbiome, why it's so important, your digestion too. Beautiful, nourishing food I'm going to be providing on the day on the 11th of October. That's 2023. I'll post the details in the post, in the comments. I'd love to see you there. Do look out and book onto that. But I hope you've enjoyed this, and do let me know if you go and try that stewed apple. Let me know what you think of it and whether you feel that is providing a calming, nurturing effect on your gut too. Have a lovely evening, everyone, and a good week ahead.